The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try.
Hello, welcome back. This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. You know, this is the second segment of my 300th episode celebration. This time, this half hour is going to be all about politics, pro-life, and activism. That's going to be a good show. Catch you later.
What does a senator, what are the duties? I never really delve into that type of politics.
Well, one of the primary things is that you vote in the Senate chambers.
Right.
So you have debates, you introduce bills, and you try to get them out of committees. It has to pass through a committee, then it goes to the Senate floor. And then you have pretty rigorous debating on a lot of issues, and you try to get that passed. And if you can get something past the Senate, then it has to start over in the House of Representatives. You have to have committee meetings and go to the floor of the House. And then if they change it, if they do amendments, then it has to come back to the Senate. The Senate either agrees or disagrees with that. If they agree, then it is voted on again, that you agree, and then it goes to the governor to sign into law. But if we disagree, then at the end of the sessions, we have what's called conference committee, where you have members of the Senate, members of the House. They meet together, try to iron out the differences. If they do, then it has to go back and be voted on by the full House, the full Senate. If you get that agreement, then it goes to the governor for signature.
Is that all?
Wow, pretty complex process.
Yeah,
frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, and I'll have up to 16 meetings a day at the State House. So I have people just coming into my office almost constantly. So it's pretty demanding on my time schedule when we're in the lawmaking session.
Well, let's talk about your first general question,
right?
Which was, what are we primarily responsible for? The city, like I said, the city's responsible to be, or the city council is responsible to approve city expenditures and any sort of ordinances that would help make order our city better.
Yes.
And so to that end, I think our primary responsibility, especially in these tough economic times, is bringing our spending to as much of a wise order as possible. So, biggest thing that I'm concerned about is let's be as prudent with our resources fiscally as we can be, and that's really where my focus is. And I think that's where the vast majority of our time is going to be spent over the next year. And you brought up a very good point, which was we have high rising energy prices. The only aspect that the city itself directly controls is our city utilities of water, sewer, stormwater, and of course our trash collection.
Oh.
And those are important, and we've seen very large increases in those, and so we're right now being asked for another major increase from city utilities. And so it'll be very important for us to look at that closely and make sure that our constituents are well served, because our incomes are not increasing very much, and every day it just seems like we're getting hit with something else that's going up.
How many brothers, sisters do you have?
One brother and two sisters. Oh, that's enough. And we grew up above our family's funeral home in New Haven, which was founded by my great-grandfather in 1889. And interesting, because you got to meet all the folks in New Haven.
Right.
We've had our own community development department talk about new urbanism and trying to reestablish or trying to establish as a new trend, mixed-use development where you have apartments over commercial buildings.
Yeah.
And as they've talked about it, and Pam Holliker from the city was talking about that as a possibility for one of the gateways of the city along Coldwater Road near 69, and this involves bringing the business fronts up toward the front of the lot by the sidewalk, making other changes on zoning. And I said, Pam, to be fair, I said, this isn't a new concept. I said, I grew up above our family's business, and there were other apartments in the older section. We're a block away.
In the old country, they have that there.
Sure, you bet. You had to be present to serve your people. But I said actually it's planning and zoning of the 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that put rules into place that said you can't have a zero lot line. That is, you can't be up against the beginning of the lot. If you were downtown, for example, if you put on any sort of commercial addition, you had to provide for additional spaces. And those sorts of rules helped drive business out of downtown Fort Wayne and helped drive businesses that were thriving in older neighborhoods to move out to the suburbs.
What is your views on spending and...
Well, you know, in a time when our economy is down and out right now, you know, people are having to tighten their own budgets. You know, whether it's our family checkbook or whether it's a small business owner, a farmer, people are realizing that, you know, because of higher taxes, because of the threat of a healthcare bill, that we all have to spend less money because we just don't know what the future holds, and also because of Congress passing some massive big government bills. And so I think what people are so frustrated with Washington, D.C. is that here we're tightening our belts, but people in Washington are spending more and more of our tax dollars. And so there's this disconnect between Washington, D.C. and the real world, that if you go out on a spending spree, somebody's got to pay for it. And we are the taxpayers. We have to pay for this.
Now, my letter to the editor has not worked, but it's been published several places. But anyway, it's called Pig Wrestling Anyone. I believe it was in the News Sentinel. Yes. No, we will opt out. Letter to the editor from me to the Fort Wayne News Sentinel. Yes. Click here to view the original post. In spite of reading 3 glowing articles in our local newspaper this week, which was a couple or 3 years ago, but they've glorified it year after year, lots of photo ops. So far, emphasizing the joys of pig wrestling, we decided not to wrestle pigs in the mud on July 16th. It'll be July 20th this year, and we are moving heaven and earth to stop it, but people are being very mean, and we're going to still have it, I believe, in Whitley County. No matter how fun and wholesome that event may be for spectators, children too. Even though evidently conveniently provided hand sanitizer dispensers will prevent swine flu, there's also pseudo-rabies that can happen. After the pursuit of one traumatized pig after the other, will the pigs wait patiently until the cleansing of human hands is over, and then the grabbing and squeezing and chasing and guffawing and dumping of the pig onto a throne or into a trash receptacle can continue? It seems that just staring face-to-face, one-on-one, not to mention four-on-one, is not wise either, as far as the transmission of viruses. We wonder what the animals could catch from us wrestlers. Nightmares, torso damage, broken limbs, aborted piglets, heart failure. Yep, we opt out in every way. Doesn't sound fun at all. Sounds abusive and cruel. Watch some videos to see if you agree. Google and weep.
We are here to talk about TRACK. T-R-A-C-K. Short form for
Three Rivers Art Center for Kids. Non-profit, tax exempt, with our Friends of the Third World, kind of our umbrella organization.
That's right.
And TRACK raises awareness and works with kids to help combat child abuse, and we'll be doing some programs specifically a tie-dye T-shirt
Oh,
project with Boys and Girls Club coming up
Maybe in
soon.
September,
We're
October,
excited
around there,
about that.
in the
Yeah.
school year, yeah.
And then in November, John Tuhawks, our friend, who's been here last year in November at IPFW,
Right.
sponsored by TRAC and Office of Diversity and Multicultural Affairs, ODMA for short.
Oh, he's got a good
And
one.
yeah, John was here last year, performed. He's a flute player, storyteller. He's inspirational. He's funny. He's entertaining. Last year, he talked about his horseback riding adventure out in South Dakota, and showed video while he played the flute and talked. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
And they liked him so much at IPFW that they had invited him back to IPFW.
And November 17th.
And in December the 8th, we are having back John Tuhawks again with his guests, special guests, Johanna Kurkula. She is from Finland, and they will be doing their Noel concert, a Christmas concert, at Sweetwater.
Well, what I need to mention here is that is the connection that we oftentimes don't realize what the connection is. The music and the arts are the therapy for the abuse. That through the arts we find inspiration to get through the abuse and to become better people. And people don't realize what happens in the abuse. We've, in previous programs and at previous times, we've spent our emphasis on what is it to be abused. And now what we're doing is we're focusing on the therapy.
Today we are going to be talking about NAMI and what is NAMI. Who would like to open up? Which one? You, Kathy?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, what NAMI in Fort Wayne is. There is a national organization, National Alliance on Mental Illness. That's what NAMI stands for. And all across the United States, NAMI has state organizations and local affiliates. And NAMI Fort Wayne is a local affiliate of NAMI National. It has been in existence for 30 years. This is actually last year was our 30th anniversary. NAMI was created first by families of persons who were diagnosed with serious mental illness. And families came together to help each other and to get information on how to take care of their family members who were ill. In the beginnings years ago, mothers and families were blamed. They were the cause of the mental illness. So often doctors and hospitals and providers did not provide them with hardly any information about the illnesses or how they were supposed to deal with them. And in reality, in the beginnings early on, doctors and hospitals tried to keep the person away from the family that was the cause of the illness. Then families got together and science changed everything, and the organizations grew, and we, of course, welcome wholeheartedly people with the illnesses now. And we are an organization looking for answers, solutions on all fronts on how to deal with this very prevalent, common issue in our society.
Selma is such an important time in our history, and we want want to remember Selma, and I do remember Selma. I think for the 50th anniversary of Selma, members of my family will be in Selma for that march. I might be there myself.
I hope so.
I hope my children will be there. But we want you to remember 50 years later, not just the people who have been slaughtered for skin color, but the little babies in the womb.
Oh. Well, we're talking about, now we're talking about abortion, so healing the shock waves of abortion. Is this, how long have you been working on that?
Well, I am part of the Priest for Life pastoral staff. I'm Director of African American Outreach with Priest for Life.
Yes.
And in that capacity, we inform, educate, and activate the people of America and around the world of the eugenics and genocide of abortion. Now, with Healing the Shockwaves of Abortion, that is a Silent No More awareness campaign initiative.
Yeah.
I am national spokesperson for Silent No More awareness, and February, Black History Month, is part of that 12-month outreach to communicate and convey the harmful impact of the epidemic of abortion.
See that miracle within the womb from the earliest ultrasound, follow that mom throughout the pregnancy, and then get to see the joy in the eyes of the mom and the dad when they actually get to see that baby on the outside, knowing that this has been their baby since the moment of conception. It's just that now that baby's on the outside and they get to enjoy that, and that's an absolute thrill. An ultrasound is an amazing tool, and the technology has really advanced just in the past 10 years. If you remember an ultrasound back, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if somebody showed you a picture, you could barely even make out where the baby was in relation to that picture. Now we can see the heart beating 4 weeks after conception actually takes place. We can do three-dimensional ultrasounds where we can actually see facial features of the baby. We can, at an early stage, actually let the mom see whether it's going to be a boy or a girl, see if it's going to be one baby, two babies, three babies, even four babies in our office. So it's an amazing tool, but they can also hear the baby's heartbeat. We can use the ultrasound and we can hear the baby's heartbeat. So we like to see the visual of the baby, but we can also hear the baby's heart beating. And we're not just showing somebody a video of somebody else's baby or somebody else's ultrasound. This is their baby. This is their life that's within their wombs. So we offer that counseling for them to say, it's not just a matter of if you think you're ready to be a mom, you are a mom. Reproduction has already happened. It's just, are we going to give this baby enough time to be able to survive on the outside?
I founded the organization called Safe Haven Baby Boxes, which is an organization that is geared to try and help save abandoned babies through the Safe Haven law. That's also an extension of the Safe Haven law. So the Safe Haven law has been in effect for more than 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah, 15 years, and 3,000 babies have been saved by the Safe Haven law. So it is working throughout this country. However, we're still finding babies, about 100 every year, that are abandoned illegally in our country. So Safe Haven Baby Boxes is an organization that is designed for those 100 babies that are being illegally abandoned every year. We're trying to save them.
So, Representative, or should I just call you Casey?
Casey will be.
Casey, what is your role in this?
What would you say, about a year ago? A little more than a year ago?
Yeah.
I had an interest in the issue of abandoned children because I saw it as something that was an avoidable, completely avoidable tragedy. And so I was known among a group of friends, let's say, and others who were interested that would forward me these tragic articles, and I did have this interest in kind of contemplating as an elected official what could we do. And then about a year, or maybe a little more than a year ago, Monica, who's also a constituent in the 85th district, approached me with what I thought was just an outstanding idea, and she has been the lead person on the issue
working
that we've
together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much so.
That we've been tackling in the state legislative session over this past year, and had a good victory there this year, and are going to continue to work on finishing up some of those items next year.
So is there, what is it? There's HB 1016 newborn safety incubators.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about, the box?
Yes.
Baby box?
So when Monica and I first met, I think maybe we met sometime before that, but on this particular issue, actually, why don't you share your story, if you don't mind, about South Africa and how you...
Back in December of 2013, I speak nationally and internationally, and I had the amazing opportunity to speak with Pam Stenzel in South Africa, and we spoke 14 times in 16 days. And we happened to be at the only church, and there was hundreds of churches in Cape Town, South Africa, but we happened to be speaking at the one church that had what they called a baby safe.
Oh.
And I was so intrigued with this. I couldn't understand why we didn't have this in the United States. I was abandoned as an infant 2 hours after I was born. My birth mother dropped me off at a local hospital in Ohio. So it's always been a big part of my life, knowing my beginnings. And when I seen this baby safe in South Africa, I was astounded that this was not in the U.S.
I've known people who have had abortions, and it's affecting them mentally and physically. I know someone who did have an abortion when they were in their 20s. When she was in her 30s, she almost died having her, her second child. So, it did do damage in her.
And I think that's important for women to realize as they're facing a very difficult decision. And that's oftentimes how I counsel women who come to see me who are contemplating abortion. Not only do we talk about what is going on in their life that makes them feel like that's their only decision or their only way out of that situation, but we also talk about the very real risks that exist, not only to their mental health in the future if they have an abortion. Studies show that there's a definite increased risk of depression and suicide in post-abortive women, and but also their physical health is jeopardized. They have an increased risk of breast cancer, and there's increased risk to future pregnancies of preterm deliveries and miscarriages and other complications such as that. And so I think that it's important for women to be informed and be fully informed, and that's something that they're not fully informed about when they go to places like Planned Parenthood or other abortion clinics that are trying to push them into an abortion decision.
Planned Parenthood, how long has that been in existence? I forgot. Since
I
the
think
40s?
it's nearing 100 years. Yes.
Right.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So with Planned Parenthood, why do they call it Planned Parenthood when they don't plan parents to have their children?
It's a good question.
I think it was probably a marketing decision.
Oh, so they can catch like a hook. So, what do they provide anything at all that's even positive? Besides
yes, they do. They do provide some cancer screenings and some other women's health services that, by the way, are provided by literally thousands of other organizations across the country who do not also provide abortions.
That's right.
Planned Parenthood's services are commingled, they're tied together. So the funds that are given for other services frees up money then to support their abortion business.
When we talk about pro-life, we talk about the life that we have in Jesus. It's part of our faith.
Yes. And some people will argue about conception. How can you prove that they're alive, the soul is there at conception? That's been a lot of questions people have been asking me. With Mary and Elizabeth, that's a good thing right there before Jesus was born. John leapt in the womb.
Absolutely. Isn't that a great story? And, we say, those of us who confess a creed, we say he was conceived by the Holy Spirit. We say Jesus was conceived by the Holy Spirit, which means, isn't it an amazing thing? Because I worship the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the God who is everywhere,
right.
The God who's omnipotent. He's all-powerful, and yet God became just a little embryo, two cells together from the very beginning. That was him. It wasn't like a thing. That was Christ as a zygote, as an embryo, as a child. And it's interesting, if like you look at the Bible, and I'm happy to know a little Greek, and the same word that's used for child, brephos, like Jesus held the little children in his arm, the brephos, is the same word used to describe John the Baptist and Jesus in the womb. It's still it's a child, or as we say, it's a child, not a choice.
Right.
And John the Baptist, when Mary and Elizabeth met each other, it was remarkable. They were both with child. They were both pregnant, and at the greeting of Mary, Elizabeth said, "My child jumped in the womb." John leapt in the womb with excitement, and that was already faith in a little child. So, and it's personal, really, because my Savior was an embryo, a child in the womb, and of course you and I were too. I mean,
it says in the Bible that they knew you before you were born, before He knitted you in your womb.
Yeah, He brought us together, and we grow, and everything that we are today was already there at the very beginning, and it's kind of like a flower. It flowered out, but it was all there at the beginning. Who we were. That was me in the womb, and that was you in the womb. It wasn't we weren't things ever. We were always growing children.
Being right to life, do you also deal with the elderly?
We certainly do. We're concerned about protecting innocent human life from the moment of conception to natural death. So that includes the babies before they're born, and a whole new arena that has been brought to our attention, maybe not new anymore, but was the whole situation where a woman gets an adverse prenatal diagnosis and may immediately think her only choice is abortion. So we work with those disabled children who've been identified before birth. Obviously, the disabled, like Terry Schiavo and others who are very dependent on others for their care, and then the elderly as well. And I think we're seeing in our society that it's become a culture of death. Any problem that causes us an inconvenience, I think too often our society looks to death as the answer, as opposed to choosing life and allowing the Lord to strengthen us as we go through those difficult situations.
Well, how long has this trend been going on, this choosing death instead of life?
I think it's been growing over time, and Pastor Spencer, you could probably help me answer this question, but I know it's long before the Supreme Court decision in 1973 that legalized abortion. I think there's been a change in mindset over time that has been very insidiously invading the very heart and soul of our nation.
Well, yeah, when Roe v. Wade and Doe versus Bolton were passed in 1973, it didn't simply make abortion on demand legal in America, but in the hearts of many people, the minds of many people, it made abortion on demand moral. Because when the law is behind it and says this is okay, people see that as a morally correct decision. But the roots of this obviously go all the way back to Cain and Abel. I mean, it's, there's always been a war between life and death. But in our own land, certainly this was going on before 1973, but not to the extent that it is today since it's been legalized.
I think the hearts and minds of our citizens were being prepared long before the Roe versus Wade decision to accept this as the next normal.
Yeah.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us all.